Those of you who have worked and followed my blog and earlier video clips know that I spend a lot of my discussions focusing teachers and administrators and coaches on student behavior. From the coaching standpoint, I found it much easier to engage teachers in considering changes in teacher behavior by first identifying the student outcome that the teacher wishes to reach and the student behaviors that the teacher believes are critical in order to gain that student outcome. So for example, if I want to increase my students' understanding of a social studies concept, then I identify what are the student behaviors, what will the student do and experience that I believe will cause the student to have that increased understanding. Then I'm ready to plan my instruction to get those behaviors. Having planned my instruction to get those behaviors, while I'm instructing, I'm now watching the student. And if I'm getting the desired behaviors, then my instructional strategies are being reinforced. If I'm not getting the student behaviors that will produce the student achievement, then that's the signal back to the teacher that I need to modify or change my teacher behavior in order to get the student behavior. What follows are two discussion clips from work I was recently doing in Bismarck, North Dakota with instructional coaches. In the first, we identified the focus on student behavior when modeling a lesson for a teacher. Kimberly is planning to model a reading strategy, and she and I met ahead of time, looked at each of the components of her lesson, and identified in that component what's the desired student behavior, and then connected it to the teacher actions. Now, the important part of this is that when the teachers are observing Kimberly's model, they want to be paying attention to the way her strategies get the student behavior. Understanding that connection is critical, because then when the teacher goes to implement what she saw modeled, the teacher knows the behavior she's looking for in the student from that modeling, from that instructional strategy. Kimberly actually set up a worksheet so that the teachers, while observing, would be recording student behaviors and teacher behaviors, and that'll set her up for that discussion in the debrief. Being certain that teachers are situated to observe both student and teacher during the modeling becomes a critical element. Here's that conversation with Kimberly.
Yes, so what we first did with the lesson is we identified every student behavior, so the expectations of the student behaviors. And then what we did is we looked at what teacher behaviors should we do because of the student behavior. Teaching the strategies is extremely important with the teacher behaviors, because what you want to do is model the behaviors that you want the students to start doing when they become independent.
So our plan is, when Kimberly models a lesson for teachers, the teachers will be observing and recording what they see students doing and what they see teachers doing. When the modeling's over, Kimberly will provide the teachers with her planning list. So what were the behaviors she was focused on getting, and what are the teacher behaviors she thought she would use. And then she'll use that to debrief it with the teachers afterwards. So Kimberly, I'm wondering just any insights that you had from the time that you and I spent together working through this for your work as an instructional coach.
Oh, it has been so great. Everything I've learned has been so beneficial to me. Teaching student strategies is what I've learned is so important, because your student behaviors is the outcome of what you want the students to do. So if you see that student behaviors are going in the wrong direction of what your intended outcome is, then that's when you start working your teacher strategies.
Yeah, I just really want to reinforce that really critical as coaches are modeling that they create that opportunity for the teacher to be focused on what it is the coach is getting the kids to do. Because then when the teacher goes to try the strategy, she knows it's working because she's getting the response from the kids.
Giving feedback to teachers is best built around the student behavior. So the teacher being able to identify the student behavior she wanted and what she was going to do to get it, and then an observing coach being able to give feedback on the degree to which the student behavior arose and the decisions the teacher made, quickly engages the teacher in that conversation. In the next clip, you'll meet Christy, who arranged for teachers in professional learning communities to watch video clips that Christy had shot in their classrooms of teachers conferencing with readers. Christy did a great job in capturing on tape the student reading as she actually stood behind the students and filmed the page in front of them as these were kindergarten first and second and third graders, first, second, and third graders reading. She actually caught their book as they read, so you heard the student read. And then just picking up the voice of the teachers, she captured teachers' responses, either after students had successfully read or when students got stuck on a new word. This allowed us then to make very strong analysis of the desired student behavior and the strategies the teacher used to get those behaviors. Here's that clip.
I videoed readers in small group reading, guided reading groups, and I was trying to focus on the conferring piece of the interaction between teacher and students. So I videoed students reading, and then we talked about those small clips of kids reading and what would we have done if we were that instructor.
So in setting this up, we took a quick look at teachers' understanding that it's the student behavior that produces the learning outcome, and then the teacher's behavior to get the student behavior. So as the teachers watched it, we really asked them to focus on identifying at each point what's the behavior you would want from the student, and what are the things the teachers did to get the behavior, or what could the teacher do to get the behavior. So kind of what's your read on what the people experienced here today?
I think the most powerful piece today was realizing the scaffolding that we're giving kids and providing them with the least amount of scaffolding first, and then moving down from there to really see what they're thinking and seeing what they're doing as learners, instead of us as teachers telling them what to do as learners. And I think that was one of the biggest ahas we came with today.
So when I over scaffold, the kids don't practice the skill that they need to be practicing, which is figuring out what strategy to use.
Right, because the ultimate goal is for children or students or adults, when they're independently reading, when they come to something that they need help with, that they use the strategies in their arsenal. So if they don't have those strategies, or if somebody's always telling them what strategy to use, they will never take that on independently. And so it's really trying to make them independent readers, not needing an adult there to tell them what to do.
What struck me as so powerful in what we got to do today is teachers had what I think was a very solid professional development experience from looking at 2-minute clips from their classrooms. You see this as a strategy you'd want to be making more use of?
I think so, because using small clips, I don't think as teachers we realize all the decisions that go into things we say to kids. And by just analyzing little clips at a time, we become very aware and I think more conscious of how we speak to kids and what we say to kids to foster that independency.
As an administrator or instructional coach, the conversations that teachers have about the choices of teacher behaviors that they are planning to use or have used is where growth in teacher effectiveness will occur. So coaches building that constant return to identifying the link between teacher behavior and student behavior and the learning outcome is critical.